Tonight we're covering the old Newsboys Goodfellow Fund of Detroit and the book that came out 2 years ago for the 100th anniversary, 3 years, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, excuse me, for the 100th anniversary, and they'll be available afterwards. And I won't get into the book itself. I'll let John and Lauren do that. But the co-authors are here to speak tonight, Lauren McGregor and John Minnis, and they are assistant editor and editor-publisher, respectively, of Grosse Pointe Magazine. Previously, John worked at the Grosse Pointe News for 19 years and as a staff writer for the Detroit Legal News, possesses an associate's degree from Macomb Community College, a BA in journalism from Wayne State, and a master's in journalism from Michigan State University. Lauren possesses a BA in English from Michigan State, and John was a presenter in September of 2010 when he presented a PowerPoint program on their previous book, Michigan State Fair. John, Lauren, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And of course, Lauren and Sue will take turns giving this presentation. This was definitely a two-person endeavor, and the second book that Lauren helped me with. So, and we very much enjoyed doing it, and we love doing these presentations and looking at these books because we think, wow, did we really do that? We did, and we're quite proud of it. And the Goodfellows was founded in 1914. In 2013, the old Newsboys Goodfellow Fund of Detroit approached Lauren and I because of our previous book and said, how would you like to do a book on the old Newsboys Goodfellows for their centennial, for their 100th? And so we said, sure, why not? And we lucked out because not only did the Goodfellows have a good organization and a lot of archives and materials and photographs, but so did the Detroit Historical Society and the Walter P. Reuther Library down at Wayne State. So finding materials was definitely not a problem. And that's usually when you're going to do one of these history books, it's really a picture book telling a story. And like when we found out when we started doing the Michigan State Fair book, we said, okay, we're going to do it because it was the last year of the State Fair. But then we didn't think about, well, do they have any photos? And we found out quickly that finding photos was a real problem. But in this case, it was not. And we learned all a lot about the Goodfellows to the point, in fact, that we became Goodfellows ourselves and joined the organization. So, and we're very proud to be that. And we'll be involved in this year's sales day, this year's parades, and we just love the organization. So anyway, anytime that you're going to do one of these history books, Arcadia Publishing, the first thing you do is present 5 cover photos. So we went through the archives, and this is the photo that the publishers chose, and this is from the 10th anniversary of the old Newsboys Goodfellows on sales day. So it would have been their 11th sales day, 10th anniversary of the old Newsfellows in downtown Detroit. And then you can just see the total huge number of old Newsboys Goodfellows back in the day. And of course, everybody worked downtown. It was really packed and populous, and you'll see just how crowded downtown was, and it's nice to see downtown's getting like that again. So this is the cover of the 100 years old Newsboys Goodfellows. The old Newsboys hawking newspapers is a very popular scene and theme from early American cities. The Newsboys, they would hawk these newspapers throughout town, and many of them came from the poorest of families, immigrant families, families new to this country. The Newsboys, the money that the Newsboys raised was a very important part to the family income, and in Detroit it was no exception. And so recognized were the Newsboys that a fountain was built in their honor in 1897 and placed in Belle Isle. And that fountain is been restored and is still there today. And that's the old newsboy with his little dog there. What got this whole thing going in Detroit was this cartoon that appeared in 1908 in the Detroit Journal. And the title of the cartoon is forgotten. And the cartoonist tried to depict a real story of a girl and a family she met from a poor family. You can see just how poor she lives up in this bedrooms in this attic in this Detroit home. Windows are broken, it's obviously cold. She's crying with an empty side. And she cannot understand why Santa never stopped by her house. And so a bunch of businessmen saw this in the paper at the time, and they vowed that they would do everything in their power to prevent girls and children in Detroit from having to go through this. And so they started giving away presents to the children at Christmas time. This is James Brady, James J. Brady. He's a newsboy. He is the one who came up with the idea to create the Old Newsboys organization in Detroit in 1914. He was a newsboy himself. He ended up rising in business and was very successful, but he never gave up his roots as a newsboy and how important it was to make sure no kitty went without a Christmas. This cartoon, titled The Boy He Used to Be, shows a prosperous businessman here giving out presents. And this is him when he was a little boy, an old newsboy, the boy he used to be. And they never forgot where they came from. They always gave out presents. This cartoon appeared in the Detroit News in December 8, 1914. So moved was James J. Brady that he went to the publisher of the Detroit News the next day and said, "Hey, I have a great idea. I'm a former newsboy. Tons of my friends and successful business people in Detroit are former newsboys. What if we go one day and sell newspapers, and all the proceeds from the newspapers that we sell in Detroit downtown, we use to buy packages and stuff for presents for kids for Christmas?" And the Detroit News editor said, "Sure, yeah, okay, you can do that." So just 8 days later, they had their first sales day in 1914. James Brady pledged to give $400 towards this, and he even took $400 out of his own bank account and stashed it, and he was going to stick it in his bag just in case he didn't sell $400 worth of newspapers. Well, that little chance of that, he sold over $400 in that year, and so he did not have to. He could put the money back into his bank account. But every year it's grown since. So recognizes James Brady for founding the Old Newsboys Goodfellows that a statue was erected in Belle Isle, and it's still there today. You can go down there and see it. And these are his ancestors. There's, brothers, ancestors, cousins, and so on, down through the years. They still go and pay tribute to their founder of the Old Goodfellows. And what's so remarkable about the Old Newsboys is the Bradys are still, descendants of the Bradys are still involved, a ton of them, in the Old Newsboys today. And they still go to the family's original corner, and they sell newspapers. They still go to Belle Isle and give tribute, to their great illustrious ancestor. And that 100 years later, family members and grandchildren, great-grandchildren are still going down and doing this. It's just a great tribute to the organization. This is the first sales day in 1914, December, and they started a tradition of all the old newsboys would gather in front of the Detroit News Building and get their picture taken before they did the sales day parade, and then launched out to their corners to sell newspapers. And there's James Brady at the first sales day. There's brother Patrick next to him, and then James Brady selling newspapers on newspaper. And except for the clothing, they still do this to this day. And some of the most prominent people in Michigan were old Newsboys Goodfellows, including Governor Alex Grosse Pointe up here selling papers. You can see the throngs of people that would be downtown buying newspapers on sales day. And there he is some years later still selling newspapers. Governor Grosse Pointe was a newsboy selling newspapers in Port Huron, Michigan when he was elected. This is the old Newsboys sales parade in 1937, and they're walking here through campus marshes. And here's the Civil War memorial to all the Michigan people who died in the Civil War. And you know, you can just see the throngs of people and marching bands and everything. And this was a big deal. And this was, you know, just after the Thanksgiving Day parade. And this is, you can see the streetcars, and everything going up. And it's just a great old picture of Detroit in this day. And the day's coming back.
Hello. So I'm going to talk about the packaging, the distribution, and what goes in the packages, like the dolls, the dresses. First, the complete package. This photo, I believe, is from 1940, and you can see they've got undressed dolls with them. I'll talk more about the dolls in a few moments. There's a whole chapter on dolls. But the packaging, like you see there in that warehouse, it changed hands quite a few times. In 1919, Crowley's or Hudson's, they would go back and forth, or they would both just package in their warehouses and supply the goods, the gifts. And then in the 50s and 60s, it was the Volunteers of America, no, 60s and 70s. And in the 80s, it went to the Detroit News Building. Now they have their own warehouse on Rosa Parks Boulevard. I don't know, I know some people have been there, they're here. And you can go to the next one. Here's a look inside 1929 box for a girl. You can see the doll. That's been a tradition since the beginning. There's also a knit hat up there, a couple pairs of socks. There would sometimes be a sweater, whatever they could put in there on undergarments. They've expanded quite a bit since then. On top, that is from the dress drive. The Detroit Free Press had the Ruth Alden, it was a pseudonym, but Ruth Alden wrote this sewing column, which was very popular. So the Detroit Free Press made a call to dress a human doll, and they asked for people to send in dresses inspired by Ruth Alden's columns. And there on the bottom, you can see in 1960, I think that one is, 1961, Officer Pratton giving a member of the Kowalski family a dress. And then here we have as far as packaging goes, this committee was very important because they would decide the quality, what quality was the minimum for what would go in the boxes. They would decide who would supply the packaging materials. Here they're at Hudson's inspecting shoes. And until 1923, they would just send the shoes in the packages, so you weren't sure about the sizing. And after 1923, they decided to give them gift certificates to go in and get their own pair of shoes. You know how fast kids grow too, even if they had the right size. So, and then the committee was also responsible for finding who would be the main provider of gifts that year. They would give their list to Crowley's, Hudson, Kearns, and see who came back with the lowest bid, and that's who they would contract that year. And then we have No Kitty Without a Christmas. So this is from 1926, this child on the porch. This is on distribution day. And distribution has changed quite a lot over the years. There have been many organizations that were involved with distribution, from the fire department to the police department, the Boy Scouts. This is really sweet. If I could just read this, I don't know if you can read from where you are, but a letter of appreciation to the Goodfellows from a boy like the one pictured said, "Dear Goodfellows, I like the game I got from you, and I play with it every night. I have lots of fun with it. The game is called dominoes," and in quotations. "When I have nothing to do, I play with it. The underwear is too big, and I'm sewing the clothes that I got until they fit me." That's so sweet. So there are a lot of things like that, letters that we have that we could see. And up top, you can see in 1930 there was firemen were distributing packages. That ended that year because of the Depression, there were major layoffs for the firemen, that they were actually starting their own fund to help their families. And so they notified the Newsboys that they wouldn't be able to help anymore. So the Newsboys called the police, and within hours of that call, they got approval from all 15 precincts. And they said, absolutely, we will sell newspapers for you on sales day, and we will distribute. So patrolmen agreed to sell papers. They, as well as help 62 laid off officers with contributions of $1 a month. They started a relief fund inspired by the Newsboys. So then you can see up top, those are the police officers in 1937, and on the bottom in 1940. And the younger looking folks up top, those are the Boy Scouts. And there's another really nice quote about that. And there's in the 1970s, another book came out about the Goodfellows. And he wrote, "It's the result of a carefully thought out plan to extend and perpetuate the philosophy of mutual helpfulness among all classes of people in the community. Many of them will undoubtedly be the leaders of tomorrow." He's speaking of the Boy Scouts. "It's our hope and plan that by reason of their intimate contact with actual poverty in this work, they will grow up with a better understanding of the true functions of organized society. The Boy Scouts, young newsboys of today, will take our places and perpetuate our ideals tomorrow." So Boy Scouts have been longtime helpers too, since the 1930s. And then on top we have, these are photos from the 50s. And the note on this is that in 1976, they stopped distributing straight to the homes. They moved it into the police precincts where parents could pick them up and then wrap the gifts or do what they wanted and present them as if they were from Santa on Christmas morning. And today they're not just at the precincts, there's many spots around Detroit, which I'm not sure where you find out where those spots are. Is it online or? Yeah, online. Yeah, so. And the dolls. So they've been delivering dolls to children since the beginning. I'll get to that. Excuse me. This was the purchasing committee that's in the Wayne County building. In 1915, James Brady began the tradition of delivering dolls at, you can go to the next one, at Receiving Hospital. And below you have his brother Joseph in 1944 continuing that in Detroit hospitals, delivering dolls to children. And on top you see the purchasing committee inspecting dolls. And then in 1937, J.L. Hudson, not 1937. In the very beginning, J.L. Hudson helped launch the doll dressing tradition with James J. Brady. He took to the radios and asked everybody to give us 1,000 dressed dolls. They got more than that, by the way. He said, "Hudson's will provide the dolls if you will provide the clothing for the dolls." And they more than represented, especially the women from Michigan Belle. Apparently they broke the record. And then on top, though, in 1958, that's Mrs. Frank J. Brady. Frank J. Brady is the descendant, and he's right there, a descendant of the founder. And then on the right is Mrs. John P. Scallon. And they, in that photo, they are at there would be a showcase of the dolls, and they still have contests today. That's part of the tradition. And below is Frank J. Brady at a Detroit hospital distributing dolls like they always have. And then Detroit media has been a huge supporter, not only of the Goodfellows, but of the doll dressing contest. And above is Pete Waldmire with Carmen Harlan. And Pete was a former, he was a newsboy, and he was a president. He was a Detroit news columnist, but he was also a president of the Goodfellows. And below is Paul W. Smith with Pete Waldmire and the Michelsons, who are from SMZ Advertising. SMZ Advertising has devoted hours and resources to Goodfellows, and they're both past presidents as well. And here's some photos from the doll dressing competitions. On top is Mike Kajewski. He's been with it for over 20 years. He's been organizing the doll dressing competitions. And then Detroit Free Press columnist Georgia Cabanas and Detroit News columnist Neil Rubin. Neil Rubin's been the sole media judge for the past 13 years now, I think, 12 or 13 years. And on the bottom is Rochelle Riley, Mike Kajewski, and former president of the Goodfellows, Annie Atanian. And you can see, I don't know if you can see, but the winning doll right here is a cute little pirate.
Well, the Goodfellows, Old Newsboys Goodfellows, you know, everybody knows about Christmas and the packages and stuff, but you have to be a little bit older, and I think this group qualifies, me included, to remember the Goodfellow games that they used to have down at Briggs Stadium. And just, you know, reading about the Goodfellow games is quite extraordinary. I mean, here you are, you know, we see Catholic schools closing and so on, but back in the day, the Catholic schools were so powerful. Hey, come on in, Frank. The Catholic schools, high schools in Detroit were so powerful that they would compete against the Detroit public schools for the city championship football game. And this went on for 30 years. And here is a picture from the 1962 game. I couldn't find St. Ambrose photo, but in 1962, St. Ambrose beat Powerhouse Cooley High School to win the city thing. Little tiny St. Ambrose. And St. Ambrose actually won the city in championship 5 times. This is from the 1959 game, St. Ambrose again against Cooley. And I believe it was the first time that St. Ambrose won the city championship game against Cooley. A few stats, if I can find them here. To say that it was, David against Goliath would have been an understatement. Because, you know, St. Ambrose had a student body of 396 students, 140 of which were boys, compared to Cooley's 3,474 students. St. Ambrose Cavaliers were outweighed by the Cooley Cardinals, 7 pounds per man in the backfield and 22 pounds per player on the line. Outweighed and outnumbered, St. Ambrose would go on to win not only the 1959 game, but 4 others for a total of 5 city championships. I mean, this is truly remarkable. And these pictures are for the programs that they gave out at Briggs Stadium. And this was just like going to a Lions game. I mean, they had programs and advertising, and over 30,000 people would go to these games to see these. So this is just how big this was, and this is all a big. This is the Old Newsboys Goodfellow's second major fundraiser in those days. And again, Goodfellows are so much more than just, and that would have been enough, but they're so much more than Christmas packages. They also provide camping scholarships, camperships to needy kids in the summertime, pictured here. They also provide dental care. And they also provide scholarships to students. And this is, you recognize Ben Burns from the Detroit News up here. And when he was in charge of the Wayne State Journalism Program, receiving a Goodfellows check. And then this, I think, was done at one of the tribute breakfasts. This chapter highlights some of the prominent people who were, Goodfellows, or Old Newsboys Goodfellows, and who later became Goodfellows. And let me see. That's Mayor Kavanaugh in there. And this is in 1963, a Hall of Fame of Goodfellows was put up at the Detroit Historical Society Museum. This is one of the founders of the Old Newsboys Goodfellows with James J. Brady. This is Jacob Guthard, and he was one of the 14 men who originally formed the Goodfellows with the Bradys. And again, the Guthard family is still involved in the Goodfellows to this day. In fact, I will be with the Guthard family at their corner on Campus Marshall selling newspapers on the Monday after Thanksgiving. You know, he was a little child when his family came across to the settled in the United States from Europe, and his parents died in the crossing, I think, if I remember the story right. And he ended up living in a makeshift wood crate house in Detroit, supporting himself by selling newspapers. And this was not an unusual story of Detroit at the time. And these are all Brady family descendants and members, and Joseph Brady here, brother of the founder, James Brady, and some more Goodfellows here. And we have another Brady right back here, Frank Brady. Raise your hand. And so, and again, it's just one of the most remarkable things is an organization over 100 years old still has the original founders' family members still involved. And of course, Pete Waldmire, he was a very keen supporter, promoting the old Newsboys Goodfellows, you know, with his position, powerful voice at the Detroit News, his column read daily by, you know, probably everybody in the Detroit area. And he's always been a very, you know, strong old Newsboys Goodfellow supporter, past president. He still MCs the Goodfellow of the Year tribute breakfast, which we just had. And you know that little boy sitting on the porch getting that package, you know? I used to tease that was Pete Waldmire. You know, but actually, that's a little bit even before Pete.
But he did receive the package when he was a child, and he said he would know when his other classmates were in the same, you know, situation as himself because they'd have matching shoes or something.
And Pete, he's here. He's not here, but I'd say if you watch, you know, Pete, he's kind of miserly. You know, he's a little cheap. And I said, well, why did you join the Goodfellows? Was it because you received a package when you were little? And he said, well, yeah, that's one reason. But for years I resisted. And I said, why? He says, well, you know, I'm kind of cheap, you know. And he says, I don't want to give to organizations that all the money goes to running the organization and to the employees of the organization and some big shots. You know, I want the money to go to the kids. And when he found out that just how nearly every penny goes to the kids and the packages, then it felt, okay, it's worthwhile supporting this organization. So anyway, that's the story Pete tells.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Pete emceeing the Goodfellow of the Year breakfast. And the list of Goodfellow of the Year honorees is really a who's who of Detroit. In fact, at this year's breakfast, Dan Lepp and his wife he's the head guy at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. They were the honorees this year. And it's down at Cobo, and it's just a wonderful event. Here you see Kid Rock as honoree. Of course, Dick Burton, you know, everybody recognizes him. And of course, it was Dick Burton with his family, and of course, Joanne Burton, you still see her on Channel 7. Dave Bing, after he was a Piston, but before he became mayor. And we had the last chapter of the book covered the 100th year and the 101st sales day of the old Newsboys Goodfellows, and Lauren will wrap that up.
Yeah, so this is it in 2013, and it's inside the Guardian building. In 2010, we moved into the Guardian building, but before that, it was taken in front of the Detroit News building. So there's tons of photos since 1914 of sales days in front of the Detroit News building. It was impossible figuring out which ones to put in the book. On top, there's the Brady family. On the far right, you can see Frank. And he's a past president. And there they are on a sales day, their usual spot just after the parade. And down below, we have Emmett Glacius. He's logistics manager for the Goodfellows. And with Dr. Mike Jennings, Goodfellow board member, that's them in 2014 at a board meeting to look through, oh, you're here? Hi, there he is, yeah. So, there's, yeah, we can go to the next one. So on top two, we've got the Michelsons and Frank Brady. You can see them selling. And then I talked about SMZ up there, but I already told you about their advertising. They've been a big help to the Goodfellows. And then on the bottom is the Guthrie family, and you know their ancestor Jacob was a founding member, and we share their spot with them, which is Campus Martius now. It used to be the site of the old Detroit City Hall or Council building, but that's gone now. So, and what was it, 2 years ago that we did it? And not to toot my own horn, but I was #1 sales. No, we took advantage of lunch hour. We're standing in the office building. Like it was really good. And you can just see how many people still get involved, all generations. They haven't missed a single sales day, they said, since the beginning. So it's got their family. And then on top, there's Paws, always at the Goodfellows events at the 100th anniversary sales day parade. Dennis Archer's up there somewhere, and down below there's the singing of Old Lang Syne, which is a long-time tradition, at Brady Corner, Griswold and Fort, right? So, yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Do you want to say?
Yeah, I'll say
And we've also, you want to say something about patents?
Yeah. Before we wrap up here, first off, don't run off if you want to get a book. I mean, there's so much more. We only picked a very few number of slides to go through. I mean, you know, we could be here all night. So we have books for sale. So if you haven't bought a book, you can buy a book. And we're here to autograph it for you too. Or they make good Christmas presents.
Really good book.
And I want to recognize too Bob Costell, the current president of the Olos. He's here today. She does most of the work over there. She's the executive director, and she runs everything and keeps us all running in the same direction, or trying to anyway. It's probably like herding cats most of the time. And we have another old Goodfellows, Conrad Koski, who was kind enough to bring this year's packages, boys and girls. And so he's going to show you exactly what the boys and girls are going to get this year, and talk a little bit about how much they're giving out this year and so on. Yeah, Frank.
A lot of people don't know Conrad actually sold Jim Brady when he was starting.
You saw. Go ahead, come on up.
Well, I'd like to, first of all, thank Mr. Minnis and Laura for the book. I've read it a couple of times and I learned something new each time. And for the Historical Society for honoring us at this event. This year we're going to give out 34,500 packages to the children in Detroit, Hamtramck, Highland Park, River Rouge, and Harper Woods. Our warehouse is full. We'll start delivering to the 8 locations this year. A week from today, the day before Thanksgiving, will be our first delivery. The 8 locations are scattered throughout the city of Detroit. One is in a Detroit, still in a Detroit police precinct. A few of them are in churches. We have a couple that are in like the rec halls or wherever within the city. And people in charge of those 8 areas are Detroit Police Department. They do an unbelievable job. As Sari says all the time, our executive director, we could not do this job without Detroit Police. You know, not only do they sell papers, as John said, on sales day, they man these locations. Some of them are open each location is open between 10 and 14 days, starting around the 5th of December. And they will man those locations from noon till 6 o'clock, Saturdays and Sundays, many times. And the recipient families will receive a letter first week in December telling them where to go to pick up their package, what times the location is open, and the precise location so that they can find it. This year we have the same locations that we've had last year, so we're hoping that there won't be a problem with our families coming in. So 34,500 right, Siri? It averages out to about 2 kids per family, so that's 17,000 plus families that will be coming in to visit us and picking up the packages. And they present the letter, they present some ID, and we hand them the package. The package. Let me briefly show you what's in 2 packages this year. This is a boy, 9-year-old. He gets a warm sweatshirt, sweatpants, hat, 3 pair of socks. As John said, the clothing is still good. We have to put the clothing in. Underwear. I'm in charge of the purchasing and distribution, and about 10 or 15 years ago, we had another, as one of our what's turning out to be annual budget crises, and I said to our purchasing committee, maybe we have to eliminate the underwear. And on that committee was a Detroit school teacher. She says, don't you dare. Some of these kids wear the same underwear for weeks on time. Thanks to Dr. Mike Jennings, we have a dental kit, which is provided to us by the Michigan Dental Foundation. I think this is their 2nd or 3rd 3-year commitment to supply the articles in this dental kit. And it's no small amount of money. It could reach $40,000, $50,000. There's a toothbrush in it that we're able now to both age, put the right toothbrush in for the right age, and also gender to some instance with Disney characters. There is a little tube of toothpaste, and this year it is just the most fantastic thing I've ever seen in my life. Sarah knows this. In here, we have an egg timer, except this is a time you're brushing your teeth. Jennings pulled this out about 3 years ago at one of our board meetings, and I said, we have to put that in. There's also a little kit in here about how to brush your teeth and proper dental care. In addition to that, thanks to Jennings again, through the, Mike, who sponsors this thing?
It's Delta, it's the Healthy Kids program that allows dental care for kids that are in need around the state.
It's a brochure that's going in every package, and in one paragraph, if your children have Medicaid and are under age 21, they have Healthy Kids Dental. They can receive free dental care. And what this little pamphlet is, it's every dentist in the Detroit area that honors this program. So we're hoping, and Mike, you'll be able to keep track of this.
Yeah.
This will be a big benefit, because I've always said the dental program was one of our, through the University of Detroit Dental School, one of our key programs, because if a kid has bad teeth and is going, they won't go to school, or they go to school and they don't pay attention. So it's a program that we've worked in conjunction with the U of D, and now with through Delta Dental and the Dental Society or Dental Foundation, and it's really worked out well for us. Back to the package. There's a toy for the boy, there's a book, there's another toy, there's some colored pencils in here, because in every package, we make it a point to put at least 3 books and sometimes 4. In this Boy 9, there's a book about monsters. There's this activity calendar which Sari found about a year ago that's pretty neat. A sticker book on horses and ponies, and an animal rescue. And this is many of these are color books, hence the crayon, or these actually are felt tip pens, I think, that go in there. So it's a pretty good package. And then of course, the candy. You have to have candy in every package. We do load up on the younger kids candy and a bunch of stuff because it is Christmas. I'm a recipient of Goodfellow packages, and I remember the candy from Sanders. And it was in a box about the size of a cigarette box, carton or little box. And it had Sanders candy in there, unwrapped and everything, about 10 or 15 pieces. So we have to continue with the candy tradition. We can't put Sanders in there anymore. They do get candy. So that is a boy's package. Up to about 10 years ago, we put jeans in the package. And we were able to find, and we bought the jeans through Wrangler right from the wholesaler, which all of this stuff is wholesale. we do our own purchasing now. We don't go through any stores or anything. And we go right to the guy who makes the stuff. And in case of the sweatpants, we buy it from Champion, and we have a good contact with Champion. But up to about 10 years ago, we used to put jeans in there, and we found that it was very difficult to size the jeans, because you have some of these kids, you know, they eat a lot of carbs and stuff that makes them a little plump. And so about 10 years ago, we started with the sweatpants, and it's worked out fantastic, because you can shrink these a lot easier than you can a pair of jeans, or you know, they'll say that, and we do buy them big for a lot of reasons. First of all, they do shrink a little bit, and if the 9-year-old boy can't wear it, his 10 or 11-year-old brother might be able to. And we do the same thing with the sweatshirt. This is for a 9-year-old boy, but we do get them, you know, a little bit bigger, and the kids are wearing them bigger too. For the older kids, we put a hoodie in there. The girls get a pullover hoodie, and the boys receive a zip-up hoodie. And then we found that these are 11, 12, and 13-year-old children. And we found that has gone over very, very well. Our biggest critics and our biggest people who advise us are the Detroit Police Department, because they're right down there in the trenches. And the second or third week in January, as soon as Christmas is over, we have a big a meeting with the people that were actually handing out the packages and everything before everybody forgets. It's sort of a meeting, a wrap-up meeting. Okay, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? You know, when these packages arrive at the locations, the cops will go through them right away and look to see what's in them. And they will tell us, well, no, you know, you don't do this, or you know, you need a bigger size in this, or forget this article or something. About 4 or 5 years ago, at this meeting, we used to put hardcover books in. Nancy Ferran had a couple of good book publisher, editor type contacts. One of them was Sleeping Bear. And they would call Nancy up, well, I got a pallet of these for 50 or 60 bucks, and they were hardcovers. And the cops told us that the kids they weren't attracted to the hardcover books. And you know, they were the greatest books. You know, Moby Dick, and many of the classics, you know, Black Beauty, and they just wouldn't do that. So we've taken to putting in, Sari, what are those called again?
Kids Discover.
The Kids Discover books. And many of the age levels receive 2 and 3 Kids Discover books, like The Stars, The Moon, you know, What About Dogs? And they're 10 or 12 pages, and they're easy to open up. And that's the first thing, you know, to get a kid to read a book, he's got to flip over that first page. And once you get him to open up that first page. Girl 8 gets a Girl and the Dragon book. This is a colored book. Charlie and the Cheese Monster, another one of these calendars that I think are fantastic. 16-month calendar, by the way. The 8-year-old girl, pretty neat little hat. More feminine than the boys. Andy, the 8-year-old, they also get sweatpants, sweatshirt. These are socks, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yep. Gloves, 2 pair of gloves, by the way. The dental thing from Dr. Jennings. And here's 6 pair of girls' brief underwear. Dental kit with the egg timer in it, of course. A little thing here that they can play with. 8-year-olds, boys and girls, for at least as long as I've been doing this, which is about 25 or 30 years, every 8-year-old gets a dictionary every year. Whether it's Webster's or a final dictionary that, you know, the price on this is probably $9.95 at the Walmart. I think we picked this up for about 35 cents or 75 cents. And here's one more, an art set. And then this is a scented notebook. But the best thing of all, ages 5 through 9, get the doll. We buy these dolls bare naked. And we have about 50 organizations, Dr. Sari.
We have, I don't know, 50 or 60 different organizations and a lot of
And individuals. It's a group in its own. It's very competitive to get in, and they just do a fantastic job. This down here, look at it, it's crocheted, and I'll bet there's got to be at least a couple of thousand of different types of crochet dolls. We try to get these out to the ladies late spring, early summer, or else our phones ring off the hook. Where are my dolls? Where are my dolls? And these ladies will start knitting and doing things. Many of them will purchase an outfit, but and you'll see shoes. We have bride dolls. We have these flowing crochet dolls that some of these ladies do that can't fit in the box, but we were able to find a home for them. I think we're doing $10,000 this year, between ages 5 through 9. We started about 10 or 12 years ago doing 4-year-olds, and then 4-, 5-, and 6-year-old packages are crammed full of what you would call Christmas stuff. We let up a little bit on 11, 12, and 13, and because of budget, in order to take care of the 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, because that's what Christmas is all about. And I find many of the recipient moms who come in will take everything out of the package and rewrap it. So the child has 10 or 15 items that they can open up at Christmas, rather than the one, if I remember mine, my ugly brown box that my mother used to hide from me. But, we've prettied up the box with Santa Claus on it and all that now, but, it's just so moving when these families come in. And you begin to recognize the names sometimes, but they thank you. We have a little donation box sitting on each table, and they'll put whatever they can, change or $1, and it makes them feel good that they've contributed to the box that they're getting. This year, like I said, 34,500 packages. Our goal is 1.1 million to pay for that. This and our other programs. What program we didn't mention was we have a shoe program that we work with through Mr. Allen's. We have one up here on 8 Mile, there's one on Woodward, and then their main store is over Southfield or something, and then they just opened up one on Jefferson Avenue. And we have a very official looking shoe certificate that the cops carry around, the schools have them, and it's signed off by them, and they take the certificate in to Mr. Allen's, and Mr. Allen's buys specific shoes for the Goodfellow organization, because they can't give them a floor shine shoe, but it's, what do we pay, 20 bucks a pair. And in some wintertime, Mr. Allen's will stock boots for all of them, and in the summer they'll have a good tennis shoe for them. And the ages are what?
4 through 13.
4 through 13, same. Okay. And it's a program that's I feel is very beneficial. And it's slowed down for a while. The DPD or the DPS was getting this certificates out, but it's picking up now because we have a new somebody else running, and I think we're going to be a little bit more progressive in that area. Any questions? Oh, come on.
How do you select the families?
We have a database that we've accumulated over the last 15 years that has about 15 to 17,000 families in it. And mid-September, they receive a letter from us with all of the details, and all they have to do is sign that letter, update the family if there's either way, and return it to us. We also distribute through every school, COP, charter school, church, neighborhood club, about 50,000 generic applications. And those applications, all they have to do is fill it out and put it back in an envelope, and it's already been stamped and self-addressed. So we have, as I was telling you, we hit, for the first time in a little while, we have enough names in our database now for this year, the whole 34,000. Those packages will all be gone. In past years, we've had a few packages left over. It's, as I said to you, it's difficult to find, and we know they're out there, but and we saturate the cities with applications, and we're doing the best we can. But this year, those 34,000 packages, be assured, will be under somebody's tree at Christmas.
we also help kids that are on, about 90% of kids are on free reduced lunch too. So that's one of the,
Yeah, the key requirement for receiving a Goodfellow package is if they're on the Michigan Health/Medicaid. And that is one of the identification pieces that the parent must bring in when they come to pick up the package, in addition to showing us their own ID. And then if there are, and our application states this, if you are not on any type of health or welfare or anything, and you still feel that you need a package, please tell us why, and we'll give them about one space, because we don't want to pry too much. Because there are working moms out there that could be making $25,000, $30,000 a year with 2, 3 kids, and that's still tough. And I would guess a good 15 to 20% are the people that are not on any type of assistance, but still need the help of the Goodfellows. Any other?
Have you calculated what the average value of a package might be?
These, the cost of the packages, ages 4 through 13 to $34,500, averages about $45, our cost. And I would, depending on the age, the retail value, when we insure these things, I think we insure that for 3 times what that cost, 2 times, at least 2 times that cost. And the retail value is anywhere from $80 to $100. Because these sweatpants, as you know, this is a good champion sweatpants. We don't want to put anything cheap in there. I mean, we have Hanes underwear, and we want it to last for the family. Anything else?
Do you still display the dolls?
yeah. They're down, we just put them up on Monday actually, down at America headquarters, 411 West Lafayette. There's about 150 of them displayed there, and we have a judging next Monday, Neil Rubin again, year 14 for.
Yeah, 14.
He'll be a judge again, top 10.
It's at, all of you are welcome to come. I think it's at
11 o'clock if you're interested.
11 o'clock? 10 o'clock at
10 o'clock.
America.
Next Monday.
This is what we call the citywide judging. Each doll organization is allowed to pick X% of their very best dolls, and then they send them to the citywide. And then Neil Rubin and 4 or 5 young children, one of them I hope is going to be my granddaughter this year, will judge the best 3 or 4. We've had Michael Jackson,
We have a Prince doll this year.
a Prince doll, we've had Kid Rock doll.
It's amazing, amazing people do, amazing.
I remember my parents taking me down to see those dolls when I was very small. At the time, it was in a gas station, and it was a huge display.
Yeah, down this wall, up that wall, on steps. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
They used to have them at the Rotunda at the airport.
Ford Rotunda, and then they had them, the last place they had them was at the Blue Cross Blue Shield building downtown.
And where we had them in the Conference building by the Hard Rock Cafe for a few years. We've had them all a lot of different places. And Comerica is very happy to have us, so it's a nice spot this year. Very nice.
Well, once again, thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for coming, and I hope you'll get a book on the way out and get John and Lauren to sign it.